It's hard to believe that we have owned this BMW for 3 years now. But today doesn't just mark that important milestone. It's actually also the day we say goodbye.
That's right, we are selling our BMW 3 Series, and in today's video we're going to reflect back on our overall ownership experience. And we're going to discuss things such as the problems, overall cost to own, what we loved and what we didn't, as well as preview what might be coming next.
But with that being said, let's go ahead and jump right in.
So let's do a quick recap. Now, we bought this BMW 330e in January of 2023. So it's been about 3 years and 1 month, or about 1,125 days of owning this vehicle. And certainly we've really enjoyed a lot of that ownership experience. We put around 21,100 miles on this vehicle. So we also have quite a bit of driving experience in this.
Yeah, absolutely. And this served as a daily driver for Mason and I, in addition to our 2025 Toyota Camry. Now, the first section of this video is going to be the problems. Now, before I get into the details, I just want to point out that we do review cars for a living. We're going to get into the details and nitpick just a little bit, but it is our job, and we wanted to be fully transparent with you guys because we have these long-term testers and we want to tell you everything that we experience, the full picture. Now, let's start with the first thing, and that is going to be an issue we've had with the climate control. In our 2-year update, we reported that we had one instance where the climate control completely deactivated. It displays a message that says you must drive the vehicle for a while in order for the climate control to begin working again. Since that 2-year update, we've had this issue occur 2 more times. So it's a little bit of a strange issue, and we'll make sure we get that, error message up there on the screen. But during the time, especially the third instance, it lasted quite a bit longer. We're looking at about 5 minutes where I was driving without climate control. Yes, that made me slightly uncomfortable, but coming from the angle that could also be perhaps a safety consideration as well, if you didn't have access to your defrost when it was hot or cold, it's definitely a little bit concerning. Also concerning is, of course, the fact that this car is nearing the end of its factory warranty coverage. So even though this has very low mileage, it would be something to consider if we were keeping it past that warranty.
Now, the next issue is also something that we updated you on in our 2-year ownership video, but the rattly vent. So there was a rattle coming from somewhere here in the front of the vehicle, and every time you drive the vehicle, it bzz, bzz, buzz all the time. So we actually took it to the dealership, and we thought it was this left vent here. Now, they did actually replace the vent. However, the issue still persisted, and we took it back to the dealership because it was still buzzing and rattling, and they did a more extensive test on it and actually found the true culprit, which was actually just this display housing. So as you can see, we have the curved display setup. The display housing itself had a little bit of a rattle, so they put a piece of felt inside, as you can see right here. They went ahead and did that, and then that definitely took care of our issue, and of course that was covered under warranty.
And the third thing is more of a accumulation, but it's just the propensity of this product to pop up a lot of random error messages, mostly to do with the plug-in hybrid powertrain, but they tend to pop up once or twice. They don't really recur often enough to do anything about, and they're just kind of a little bit concerning from an ownership perspective. So I'll just show you some of the things that we've gotten over the last few years. It often gets cranky about being charged and displaying different messages regarding charging errors. The starter battery was displayed as low a couple times randomly. It said there were problems with the parking sensors, and also at a few points it said both of our key fobs were dead, even though they were working just fine. So are those big deals? Not really, but they are a bit strange that you get these messages over and over.
If you're new here, we're brothers, and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We started young, and since then we have reviewed over 2,000 vehicles at every price point.
No matter what you're looking for, from humble to high-end, we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family.
Let's learn a lot and have some fun with all the latest cars.
Now, what about the wear and tear after 3 years? Well, honestly, the exterior is in perfect condition. There is one slight road chip right there. And let's go ahead and talk about the interior, because I think that's a very impressive element about this 3 Series is how well this interior has held up. We've owned several cars for, 3 years, and a lot of car interiors don't hold up super well. And we have the Sensitech interior. So as you can see, this is a faux leather. However, the durability of this, I'm just incredibly impressed with. Both the seats look like absolutely brand new. They're on the passenger side, and here on the driver's side, there's hardly any creasing. I don't see any creasing whatsoever. That also goes the same for the center console area. And because this vehicle doesn't have a lot of piano black or anything like that, really none of it's scratched up. You just have this beautiful wood trim.
Next up, we have recalls. Did we get any? Well, this is going to be a short section. No, there were no recalls that impacted this model, impacting our VIN specifically. However, I do want to mention one communication we received from BMW, and that was the fact that the high voltage battery assembly in basically all of their plug-in hybrid models has some type of issue, or could have some type of issue. It's not a recall, but they did extend the warranty for that specific componentry up to 15 years.
And now we've got to move on to the things that we loved, as well as some things that we didn't love. But I'm going to start out with the positives first, and the things that we loved about this car for all of those days that we owned it. Well, I'll go ahead and start by saying the German build quality, I have to say, in this vehicle is really phenomenal. And compared to some of the modern BMWs, I honestly feel like this 3 Series is one of the peak models that we've been in the past several years with build quality and the nice selection of materials. It just works really well. Now, also, something that is famous for with a typical BMW product is the driving experience. We opted for the adaptive suspension on this model, which means that we have dual character. It can be comfortable if you want it to, but also if you're taking it down a back road, you can put it in the sport mode, and it really has a lot of liveliness to it. So we definitely have loved that as well. Now, we also loved the tech experience that we got in this 3 Series. Now, in 2023, that was the refresh year, so you got this new screen setup. It has wireless CarPlay, wireless Android Auto, and honestly, it's worked pretty much flawlessly in the 3 years that we've owned it. Now, I do want to caveat that by saying we're moving into some things that we didn't love, and that really revolves around the fact that this is iDrive 8.0. It's not 8.5 or any of the versions past that. And some of the weird things about that means that you can't adjust the heated seat or anything down here easily. So you have to go in this convoluted menu and put it on low, medium, high, and it may actually still not even turn on. It's kind of weird, that's for sure. And we wish that we could have been able to upgrade to that latest software. But for whatever reason, if you had iDrive 8.0, that was the latest one that you could get.
Now, another thing we didn't like as much as, well, that right there. This vehicle has poorly done regenerative braking. And what we mean by that is the fact that it is extremely sensitive. Even 3 years on, this is a car that you really have to focus on stopping smoothly. And you can't really say that about any of the other, or many of the other cars that we drive, and we drive hundreds of cars out there. This is one of the most challenging vehicles. I've definitely been guilty of jarring the passengers, let's say. And the last thing we're going to put in the didn't like as much category is that this is not a great road trip vehicle. And there's a few reasons why. So the first one is the fact that the fuel capacity on board, especially for this plug-in hybrid model, is very small. It's only about 10 gallons. So this is a car that you have to stop and fill up very frequently. Another thing is the fact that this has a small trunk, as you'd probably expect. It's about 10 cubic feet of space. Some of that is going to be the battery pack. You have a little bit of underfloor, but if you're bringing in big suitcases and stuff like that, or you have family members like we do that overpack routinely, they are going to be very cramped, and you might have to stick some of your luggage in the back seat, something we learned the hard way. And then the third thing was something that, honestly, it was a mistake on our part. We didn't order this vehicle with adaptive cruise control. That's actually because we falsely believed that dynamic cruise control meant it had adaptive cruise control as standard. It does not have standard adaptive cruise control, and honestly, at this price point, all the BMWs should now have standard adaptive cruise control. Almost all the mainstream cars are giving you that as standard equipment.
All right, so we've got to talk money. So obviously this is a luxury vehicle, and luxury vehicles are very expensive when it comes to the original price as well as depreciation. So what is that original price? Well, I brought along the sticker here. You can see the original price was $53,870. You can see the options that we selected as well if you're curious as to that. But what's it worth now? Well, unfortunately, all cars depreciate. I wish all cars held their value perfectly, but unfortunately that's not the case. And what it's worth now is $34,000. Now, we went and looked at Kelley Blue Book, Carvana, got multiple offers on it, and that's pretty much the average offer that we got is around $34,000. So that does mean overall depreciation in 3 years and 21,000 miles is around $19,870. So that's certainly a pretty good depreciation, that's for sure. However, do keep in mind, of course, every car will depreciate. Now, when it comes to maintenance cost, that's actually been zero. So typically with luxury vehicles, it's super expensive to maintain, but you can see right here on the sticker, BMW Ultimate Care, $0. So that means in our first 3 years, we have paid absolutely nothing for any of these general maintenance items, which I think is a huge benefit for a luxury vehicle. Now, there was one other expense that we did have to pay for, and that unfortunately was that these tires, they're very, low profile, and unfortunately it just developed a bubble in it randomly. We didn't hit a pothole or anything, that at least that we can remember, and it developed a bubble, so we did have to replace one of the tires, and they're pretty pricey. It was about $415 to replace one of the tires. Overall fuel cost, this is a pretty efficient vehicle. Of course, it's plug-in hybrid. Overall, BMW is saying that we got around 41 miles per gallon in the lifetime of this vehicle. Of course, that does factor in, that we did use some electricity. So, of course, that was not exactly free, but we're saying about 41 miles per gallon, which means in 21,000 miles, we use 516 gallons of gas. And at an average cost per gallon of gas in Kentucky over the last 3 years for premium fuel of $3.75, that means overall fuel expense is around $1,935. So add all of that together, $22,220 in that 21,000 miles, which means it's been a little over $1 per mile.
So the chapter with this 3 Series has concluded, but you might be wondering what comes next. Well, we have a little bit of a teaser we can tell you. So one thing I want to point out is that what we'll be replacing this vehicle will be a vehicle that's going to be more mainstream. And it's going to be something that a lot of you guys are going to be interested in. That much we are very confident in.
It's also great for families, and it is an all-new product. Those are your hints. We are very excited to share more soon, and we want to know what you think in the comments down below as to what's going to replace this 3 Series, but we will be sharing more details soon, so just stay tuned. And guys, that is where we're concluding our ownership officially. I have to say, I am very saddened, honestly, to be selling this 3 Series. I think I speak for both of us in the fact that we really did love this vehicle, and if circumstances were different, we'd love to keep it for longer. However, of course, keeping a luxury car out of warranty that keeps throwing up error messages all the time may not be the best financial decision long term, but we certainly love this 3 Series, and we will definitely miss it. That's for sure.
Definitely. And of course, we are still looking forward to moving to a long-term tester that's perhaps more relevant to you guys as well. But we've really enjoyed our time with this product. We would do it again, absolutely. And, until then, we're just going to take one last ride out into the sunset.